Hello and welcome to Dress Up Disasters. I am your host, Alycas, and I'm here with the other host,
Circuit.
Yeah, I almost called you Circas. And in today's episode, we're talking about accuracy versus fit, or like practical versus accurate.
Yeah. When to know when to stray from accuracy.
Exactly, knowing when to stray from accuracy and how to make things fit better for you.
And just look overall more flattering.
Yeah. So, I guess my personal things that make things, like the things that I like to do to costumes, are like, words.
The things we like to add to our costumes
Yeah.
to make them more flattering on us, personally.
Is, like, the most important things for me is textures, fit, and, like, color matching in tones to fit my, like, complexion. Because I have red tones, and jewel tones look really good on me. Fall colors look really good on me. The more muted, richer colors look good on me. Those summer bright neon colors, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, yeah, fit, texture, color, and making sure that things are more suited, I guess, to my body type is the most, like, that's what I look at when
Body types and bone structure dictate a lot certain cuts and fits of garments.
Yeah. Because the garment might have one type of cut on the character you're doing, but I just know that it's gonna look bad on me, so I'll move waistlines, I will broaden shoulders, I'll, like, add corsetry, or I'll add padding or things like that to change out how the costume, like, sits on my person to make it look a little better. Because, like, with my Raiden Shogun cosplay, I always wear a corset underneath of it to give structure to the costume and make it look better on me.
Yeah. And also textures. Textures.
Oh, yeah.
Please stop using quilting cotton because it's accurate to the animated character you're looking at.
My big rule of thumb when it comes to figuring out what kind of fabrics you want to use for your costumes, what kind of finishing you want to use on your foam smithing, on your props, on everything like that, is to think about where the character is from. Is your character rich? Are they poor? Are they an alien? Are they from 1855? Like, what is this character's background? Where are they from? What is the place in which they're set? And that can really impact what things you want to use in the build of your costume. So, like, a prince isn't going to be wearing quilting cotton. He's going to be in more lavish costumes. Whereas if you're making a character that is a peasant from 1500, they're not going to be wearing velvets. They're going to be wearing little linen and wool and things like that. So
the more sturdy natural fiber.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're like an alien, you don't necessarily want to use a plain little fabric on, like, something from Alien or, like, Far in the Future. Go bold. Use that, like, shiny vinyl. Like, go big for things like that. Like, really.
It's like those people who add, like, you see it a lot in Vocaloid and, like, prom air cosplays with people mixing glitter in with their gel on their wigs and then putting cellophane over top of it, so it gives it, like, that cool, like, iridescent-y look to it.
It looks so cool.
It looks so cool.
Yeah.
So wicked. But they don't have that type of glitter on the design in most cases. Vocaloid, sometimes they do have more glitter, but like prom air, it's very much flat colors. You can play around with a depth in real life that they don't have on
a 2D animation. Yeah.
You can play with the textures and the depths of color and the weathering on the garments.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, not to bring back to the last episode, but on Gambit from X-Men with his big leather trench coat. He wears that shit all of the time. There's going to be discoloration in the seams and on the edge of the cuffs and on the bottom hem and stuff like that. There's going to be wear and tear. It's not going to look nice and pristine like it does even in fucking episode 5 of 97.
Crying, screaming, and throwing up. If you know, you know.
Yeah, I have to say it again.
Like, adding textures into your costuming can be using velvets, it can be using brocades, it can be using...
I love brocades.
Oh, I love both brocades and I love velvets so much. It can be using wool, it can be using, like, linen textures,
specific
or...
type of paint job on your props.
Yeah. If you want to do, like, a stippling texture, or if you want to add, like... there's the way of, like, making the fake rust on, like, let's say, costumes from, the one where they're in the vaults. The vaults.
Fallout?
Fallout! Oh my gosh! Like, if you're working on a Fallout costume, you want to make that gritty. You want to make it dirty and have rust and things in it. Like, so you don't want to have just, like, your flat fabrics. You're going to want to texture things out and to add that dimension into it to make it feel a little more lived in.
Yeah, because the type of fabric you choose also does a lot to determine the structure of your garments.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're making a jacket, you're not going to want to use, like, a light knit fabric.
No.
Because it's the right color. You're going to want to take the time to look for a color suitable that's in more of a structured fabric, like a twill or something like that, that will hold those nice sharp lines and sit nicely on your body without it looking like a cardigan when it's supposed to be a suit jacket.
Yes. Finding the right weight and drape of a fabric is going to so dramatically alter the way that that costume sits on you, the way that it behaves when you move. If you want something dramatic and flowy, you need to think about the way that the fabric moves. And so, like, when I'm at a fabric store or when I'm looking at fabric I want to buy and I'm thinking about the character, if the character wears a stiff costume, I'm not going to use a lightweight material. I'm going to make sure a medium or even a heavyweight material, or if that lightweight material is the one I really want to use, I'm going to flatline it with a heavier material so that way it still has that really good rigidity and that structure. Or if I'm working with a character who's got flowy robes and it just billows in the wind, I'm not going to use a heavyweight wool. I'm going to use like a lightweight cotton or a lightweight linen or like a chiffon or something.
Or an organza.
Or an organza or something. So, like, figuring out and making sure that you use those textures in a way that works with the character, because it can also work with the, like, you can tell a story about the character and you can tell so much about the character with how you, like, what materials you're using to portray that character.
Especially because a lot of characters, especially ones that are popular now because of things like Dawn May novels and stuff like that, a lot of what comes from their costumes are based on traditional wear.
Yeah.
So they have types of fabric that's supposed to be used for those traditional garments, right? So you could also kind of start leaning into, like, the cultural insensitivity because you're not using the proper types of fabrics that are going to give the right type of silhouettes, because so much of those types of garments are determined on, like, so the silhouettes are very important on those types of garments.
Like, doing your research on the culture behind where that costume is coming from is also very important in determining the materials that you're going to use for it. If you're making, like, something from an anime, such as if you're making something from Demon Slayer, where that takes place in a very specific time, in a very specific location in Japan, you can pull from traditional garment making at the time and traditional fabrics that are used in making those costumes and make them add that extra layer of depth and into realism. The costume. Yeah, exactly, and that realism.
Because you're not necessarily, we're not saying you're bound to
definitely not
accuracy.
No.
But it's always fun to be able to pull from those types of resources to give your costume more realism and depth.
Yeah.
And more little fun Easter eggs, especially, like, if you're competing or whatever. It's really fun to be able to pull stuff like that. You could be like, oh, and this was historically accurate.
Like the costume that I'm currently working on from MXTX novel, A Scum Villain's Self-Serving System. I think that's what the whole title is. I always forget. But anyways, I'm doing the little green guy, Shen Ching Chu, I think is how you pronounce his name, but don't hold me to that. SQQ. Well, yeah, a lot of times they end up just using the abbreviations because it's so much easier. Anyways, I made that costume using historically accurate patterning techniques. So I set the arm side in a different way, and I did those things to really, really make that costume look even more authentic than just like if I had set the arm side in a way that we do in Western clothing. And so that's like an interesting way that you can like add that character, and that's like bringing the character to life is also making sure that you're like using patterning techniques that are used in that culture or in that thing.
And like the Zelda project I'm working on right now, I'm taking a lot of inspiration from historical European garb because I want to add pockets because there's no visible pockets in the design, the reference art that I'm using. So I'm finding ways of doing historical types of pockets because they did have pockets back then in their dresses. They just had
big pockets.
They had different types of pockets than what we have now in ours. So I'm going to be doing these exterior pockets that are almost like little bags attached to me. Mainly because I don't want to have to worry about lining up 4 skirts to have internal pockets, which they also had, contrary to popular belief. But like I'm gonna make these really pretty embroidered pockets to have on the outside of the garment because she comes from royalty, so they're gonna have more detail work put into them because she could afford to have. To pay them more to have them done really nicely and finely with finer materials than, say, Jane down the street with her cow. Like,
yeah, exactly. Taking into consideration where a character is from in like the social hierarchy can really influence what kind of fabrics you want to use. Like, if you're making something from Avatar: The Last Airbender, you can use really beautiful, rich fabrics on Zuko, where you might not use those same rich, beautiful fabrics on, say, wow, why can't I think of his name?
Whose name?
Boomerang!
Sokka?
Sokka! Oh my god, I wanted to say Sasuke, and I was like, no!
Wrong-ass character.
Wrong-ass character. Because, like, they're making anything from that particular series, you can really play into the cultures that those countries were like based on.
So clear what type of cultures they used as inspiration for the different nations. You know,
and so playing into those fabrics that you use, like say with Aang, you're gonna use like really light, flowy fabrics that have like a really probably homespun texture, whereas you'd want to use brocades and silks and things like that for Zuko and Azula because like they come from very different places, and so that's a really fun way where you can add character and texture into the projects that you're working on.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with that. And it all same goes for colors.
Yes.
Because colors are important. If a costume is going to look odd on you, it's probably going to be because of color choices.
Color theory. Look into color theory, and then you can also like take little tests online where it can show you like what your seasonal color is, and so you might look better in super bright colors. I personally don't. I look better in fall tones.
I also don't look great with bright colors. So going back to Zuko, if I was going to make a Zuko costume, instead of the bright reds and bright yellows of his robes, I'd probably go for a deeper...
like a burgundy and gold.
Burgundy, probably close to like a brocade type fabric or something like that for the robes, and a nice deep gold for the trims instead of that bright yellow. With X-Men as well, you see a lot of neon yellow in those costumes.
I'm going to be using more like a canary yellow for Rogue because that's going to look better on me.
A slightly deeper tone because value and shade are important in your colors.
So important, yes. Like when it comes to again, this doesn't have to just be in your costuming. This can also be in your wigs. I do not wear bright yellow wigs. It looks really bad on me. Bright orange wigs
make me look sick.
It completely washes me out. So with Link, even though the characters, like Breath of the Wild Link, he has that more like yellowy color in his hair, I tend to go for more ash-toned yellow wigs. Because it just looks better with my skin tone. Or, like, I cosplay Tartaglia a lot, and in the game, he has, like, really bright orange ginger hair. I don't look as good with that, like, bright orange hair. Same with Hinata from Haikyuu. I use a more auburn red, a deeper tone of that orange red. And that's the same thing with Chuya. Like, I always darken the wigs a little bit more because it looks better with my skin tone. And working with your skin colors.
Yeah, I used to cosplay Ariel a lot when I started.
Yeah.
And it was very much a canon color hair that I was using.
I did
for
the same
her,
thing, yeah.
But it also brought out all of the redness in my face, which made me look very overheated a lot and made me look very ill. And I switched to a deeper red, like a crimson almost, for the wig, and it looked way more flattering.
Yeah. So playing with color that works good with your undertones is so incredibly important to how you're gonna feel and how that's gonna look on you. I also tend to go with less. Like with blue wigs, I can do dark blue and more like a true blue, but if the wig tends to go into the more tealy colors in that bright green spectrum, it looks bad on me.
Yeah. I can't do light blues.
Yeah, I can't do light blues
like
and light greens.
Blue. I can't do light blue.
I can do light blues if they're more on the true blue tone, like with Link, the Link blue. I tend to go more true blue instead of more into the tealy, which he is. And it's okay to change a color if it's gonna look better on you.
Yeah, because people aren't going to notice.
They're not.
They're not going to notice, oh, you're not using the exact Pantone shades of this character, therefore your cosplay is inaccurate, and it sucks. Like, that, I don't even think that's ever happened. Really, about color specifically.
I mean, online I've had the occasional comment that, I think on my child, someone once said that the wig was a little too dark, and I was like, and? Like, that's it.
Yeah. It always works better to have a color that suits more to you.
Yeah.
And if you find a fabric that's not quite in the right color, but you really like the texture, the feel of it, you can also dye it.
Yeah.
To be custom.
Yeah.
Once again, making sure you're looking at the color wheel for the type of color you want.
Yeah.
If it's not a white fabric you're going to be dyeing, because you can't just take a bright yellow fabric and you want to make it another color and just put that one color on the yellow.
Oh, no.
Like, say I want a purple fabric and I'm starting with the yellow. Don't put purple on the yellow.
No.
That's how you get brown.
Yep. That's also how you get a not very good shade of brown. It's gonna look like poop.
Like a poopy brown.
Yeah.
A brown you'd only find in a diaper.
Oh, lovely. Squirrel say.
Do you have anything else to say on fit specifically?
On fit?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I have a lot that's on practicality, but you're the fit guy.
I am the fit guy. I'm the one, I do all the patterning in this little cosplay duo. Patterning is my shit. I hate using commercial patterning, so I always do my own patterns. That being said, one of the most important things when making something fit nicely to you is knowing your body shape. I have a more pear-shaped body, so I have more narrow, my shoulders and my hips are almost the same width, so actually it's more hourglass. I have more hourglass. So my shoulders and my hips are about the same dimension, but my waist is like 12 inches smaller than my hips. And then I have large thighs but smaller calves. And so I have thinner arms than legs. And so you have, knowing your proportions and being able to build something around your body proportions is very important. Because if I cosplay a character that's a twig little waif of a man, my hips do not do that. I have, as my grandmother so lovingly put it, birthing hips. So I have to build the rest of the costume to not make me look like a wedge or like have crazy hips. And there's ways that you can go around that by making your shoulders broader to kind of make your waist look smaller or your hips look smaller. If you are shaped a little bit more like a wedge, then padding out your hips will make your waist look smaller.
Yeah, because I have the opposite issue in which I always look like a cylinder from every direction, from every angle, all of the time.
Yeah.
So it's a little funny and a lot frustrating.
So, like, it's okay to pad out your hips if you want, like, a dramatic effect. You don't need to, like, lose weight or gain weight or do things like that to, like, for cosplay. You can pad things out.
You don't need to have the Jessica Rabbit body to have the Jessica Rabbit body.
Exactly. If you want the big, massive anime titty, you don't need to have big, massive anime titty. There are silicone inserts, and you can have the big, massive anime titty. I just said big, massive anime titty 4 times. But don't be afraid to make the structure of a costume work better for you by changing the fit. And that is unfortunately something that you're going to have to learn over time. It's not, this does not come natural. This is something you're going to have to learn, but it is one of the best ways to make something look really good on you.
And there's a lot of resources online helping learn stuff on fit and how to make things fit you nicely. Mm-hmm. Because if you're gonna make a thing, don't just go buy a pattern assuming it's gonna fit you perfectly, because that's not how patterns work. There's going to be extra tailoring involved that you're gonna need to do.
Make a mock-up.
Personally, what I like to do when I'm using a commercial pattern is I'll make the garment first, and then I'll tailor it afterwards to make it fit everything, because then there's less margin of error on the pattern itself.
Because I make my own patterns, and I have a really good understanding of my, like, measurements, it's a little easier for me, but I almost always make a mock-up, and then on the mock-up is where I make any fit alterations and things like that. And there have been times where I've had to make, like, 2 mock-ups. And for really fitted things like a corset, you might have to make, like, 4 mock-ups, or, like, alter that one mock-up 4 times until it actually fits in the way that you want it to.
Which is why you never cut your good fabric first.
Buy some old sheets. Bed sheets.
Curtains also work really well too. Big curtains.
Those are my favorite things to make mock-ups out of. But I cannot stress enough how important and imperative it is to really look at the way the garment is structured and then, like, do those mock-ups, because that you're gonna fix 90% of your fit issues in your mock-up.
Well, that, and also when you're making your mock-up, I know I've mentioned this before, but it's so important. If you're making something out of stretchy material, make sure your mock-up is made out of stretchy material.
Yes.
If you're making something out of a non-stretch fabric, make sure your mock-up is made out of non-stretch fabric, because that's going to alter the way it fits you.
Also, if you're making your finished garment out of, like, a thicker material or a very stiff material, you need to make sure that your mock-up is made out of a stiffer material. So, like, if you're making a leather jacket, your mock-up shouldn't be a thin, wafy little cotton.
Because the thickness of the fabric can affect your seam allowance.
Yep, it can heavily affect your seam allowance. It can also affect the bulkiness of the seam, and therefore lessening how much room you have to work with.
Yeah, it's very important to keep those kinds of things in mind.
Because I once made a mock-up out of non-stretch fabric and then made the finished garment out of stretch fabric and the crotch on the pants looked so wrong. I had to redo the crotch like 3 times.
That was the Todoroki, right?
That was Todoroki, yeah.
Another thing to making like practicality versus accuracy, all that kind of stuff. If you're cosplaying a character with a large prop, make sure to scale that prop to your size, not the character's size.
Yep.
So if you see this character has a sword that's a foot taller than him, but you know the character's 6 foot, and you're 5 foot, don't make that sword 7 feet tall. Make that sword 6 feet tall.
Exactly.
Because it can throw off all the proportions. Same goes for
armor belts.
If you're really tall, like you're 6 foot or whatever, and you're buying one of the foam swords you see in con vendor halls that are like 3/4 of the size of the actual weapon there would be, you might want to either make or get one that's a bit longer to fit you better.
Yeah.
Because it's a little funny sometimes seeing these really big, tall people using these little tiny foam weapons.
It is. Yeah.
It's a very unmenacing.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because Alycas here cosplays Link all the time.
Yeah.
And their Master Sword is a little...
Well, I have 2 of them.
They have one they bring to cons that's smaller, and they themselves are smaller, but it's still a little off to scale.
It's a little child-sized.
It makes me chuckle every time they pull it out.
Well, it's because it makes it easier to walk around with the sword, and most of the time I don't take the sword out.
Yeah.
But
and
like...
that's a practicality thing.
Exactly. Keeping things practical for the con floor.
Because you gotta keep in mind the space you're gonna take up at the con floor, especially if you want to go shopping. Because I swear to God, if I get hit with another pair of wings, I'm going to lose my shit. Make your wings foldable, dear God.
Or don't, like... Yeah, one of my big things is if your costume is really, really cumbersome,
like it's a ball gown or a mech suit or has wings or
a crazy giant prop sword. I'm looking at you, Cloud cosplayers.
A train.
Yeah.
Right, because all that stuff can get stepped on and damaged. You can bump into people with it.
Yeah.
None of it's a good outcome. None of it's an outcome you want.
Don't go into the vendor hall. If you think your costume's too big for it, don't do it.
Yeah, if you want to wear a costume like that, then plan your weekend where it's easier for you and others to enjoy the con while you can wear those costumes. So, like, the Zelda I'm making is a big ball gown with a big train, but I'm planning on not going anywhere but posting up in it.
Yeah.
Doing a couple photo shoots, that's it.
Yeah, because my Link sword for that and the shield are going to be a lot more sized to me instead of sized to walking around.
And we also have handler set.
Yeah.
Who's going to be helping with that. Yeah. Helping us, especially with my gown on the SakuraCon escalators.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, my train's going to be removable to make sure people don't step on it because it's going to be rhinestoned, and I don't want to have to get upset or whatever because people are stepping on it. So that's a thing I'm taking into mind to be practical for myself and other people on the con.
Yes. Taking into consideration the other people that will be around the costume that you are going to be wearing is taking into consideration the practicality of your costume.
Yeah.
You might be able to move in that costume, but can people comfortably walk around you? Like, if you're wearing a costume that has crazy, pointy spikes on it, and somebody walks into you, that could really hurt them, and therefore really ruin everybody's weekend. So take into consideration where you're going to be in that costume.
If you're wearing a big eye-catching costume like that, people are going to want to take your photo.
Yeah.
You know, don't let people take your photo in the middle of a hallway in the vendor's hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that can always lead to congestion, which is also just kind of unfair to the vendors, too, sometimes, because of how long that congestion can last. Because I know, for me, when I'm in heavily condensed areas of convention halls, I don't really take care to look at the tables that are around me because it's just so hard to get through the space in general that I know I'm not going to make it to the front of the tables.
Yeah.
Right? Also, in terms of changing things for accuracy, if you cannot wear heels long term and you know you're going to have a long day at con, do not be afraid to switch them out for flats.
I have a thing where, like, if I'm doing a photo shoot at the con, I'll bring the shoes to wear for the photo shoot, and then I'm putting myself back in comfortable shoes. If I'm going to a photo shoot, I'm wearing the comfortable shoes and then changing for the photo shoot or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You do not need to wear the Canon crazy shoes at the convention all day long. Your comfort is more important.
Your comfort is paramount.
Yeah.
And some people can absolutely do heels 12 hours a day with no problem, depending on the type of shoe.
I last max 4.
Yeah, like I have a pair of boots that are like 3 or 4 inch heels that I can wear all day with minimal problems. However, I also have a pair of boots that are just less than an inch taller that have me in tears after half an hour.
Well, it's like the shoes I wore at AR. They do have a 2-inch heel, but it also has an inch platform on the front, so it's about only an inch heel, and I was able to wear those all day just fine. I also have other shoes that have like 4 inches of a heel and then an inch platform, and I can wear those shoes for like 8 hours just fine. I have other shoes that have a 2-inch heel, and I'm hurting in 30 minutes. You wear your shoes and make sure you can wear them for a decent amount of time before the con.
Break your shoes in before the con is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Don't buy a new pair of shoes, especially heeled shoes, but any shoes, because all shoes can hurt. The day before con and be like, oh, these are what I'm going to be wearing. No, you break that shit in first.
I like to go grocery shopping in the perspective shoes, and that'll tell me a lot about what I can and cannot do.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
Because grocery store floors are very similar to convention hall floors.
You're going to be dodging people. You're going to be up and down. You're going to be picking things up. You're going to be pushing a cart. You're going to be like... There's a lot of things that's very similar to being on a con floor as being in a grocery store, and so I test my shoes out that way. Mm-hmm. And then also, going grocery shopping, you're going to be standing for like, maybe an hour or more, depending on how big of a shop you're doing or whatever. And so it's a good way of testing if those shoes are... Because if a pair of shoes is going to really hurt, it's going to really hurt you in the first 30 minutes.
Yeah. Because what I did at SoccerCon, both years I went, I bought shoes for a costume. Went to the building farthest away from my hotel room, realized, oh shit, these shoes are making my feet bleed, and then I walked to my hotel room completely barefoot through downtown Seattle. Please don't be like me. I'm hoping this year it's going to be the first year I don't do that. Because I thrifted shoes the first year. I thrifted a pair of little pump heels and thought, oh, well, they're thrifted. They're already going to be pre-broken in for me. Wrong. So far wrong. Always make sure your shoes are broken in before you wear them. Don't assume.
Yep.
Don't assume. Because it was worse with those shoes was that they were also covered in sequins, which also dug into my foot. So it was a double whammy on those.
Yeah.
So I think I lasted maybe 10 minutes in the dance before I was like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Another one I see a lot is the talk about my cosplay is only valid and canon, especially in competition settings, if I have contacts. Or are the judges going to discriminate if I don't wear contacts for this character because I can't wear them, or I don't want to wear them, or I don't feel comfortable wearing them, what have you. Contacts are not a requirement in any aspect of cosplay.
Absolutely.
They are considered a medical device. Mm-hmm. So if you're not comfortable wearing a medical device, there's no repercussions if you're not. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, especially in competition, those don't get noticed anyways.
Yep.
Right? Like, I know from the audience, they can't see them. The only people who would be seeing them are the judges, and they don't care. Mm-hmm. Any judging panel or feedback panel or a panel on competition you see done by someone who judges competitions, that's something they say in 90% of their panels is that contacts do not matter.
Yep. It is all about craftsmanship, and you can't make contacts usually at home. I wouldn't suggest it.
Please
so the color of your eyes matters not in the construction of your costume.
And a lot of colored contacts for cosplay also limit your vision as well.
Yeah.
Which, if you're competing, can be very dangerous because it's very dark backstage.
Yeah.
It can be hard to see the stairs. The amount of times I have seen people trip up or down those stairs, either because their helmet for their costume is limiting their vision, the contacts are limiting their vision. Insane. Yeah. Don't add to that statistic.
Yeah.
Please. Going back to wigs and hair a little bit. You can absolutely use your own hair. If
100%.
You are the same hair color as the character or whatnot.
Or if you want to cut and dye your hair, that's okay. I did that for my Yuri Katsuki cosplay. I cut and dyed my hair black for him because I didn't want to fork out the money for a lace front, and I didn't care if I cut my hair.
However, for certain styles, I still heavily recommend looking at the possibility of getting a wig anyways, even if your hair color does match, especially if there's
like the crazy anime hair.
Yeah, a lot of spikes or just a lot of intense styling anyways. Because the way costumes are often made, it can throw off the balance of the costume without a wig because they add a bit more bulk to your head. It makes the costume look more filled in.
Also, on the point of wig styling and wearing wigs with cosplay, you can alter the style to fit your face. I don't do huge spikes and huge styles because my face is very small and it looks really dumb and my face just disappears into the wig.
Yeah.
So I will make the wig look the same in styling as the character, but I scale it to my head. If the spike on the character is 3 inches long, that's gonna look really dumb on me. I'm gonna do maybe, or like 3 inches, actually no, that's way too far. I'm maybe gonna do like 1.5 inches of a spike because I have a small face. But for somebody with a much larger face or a larger head that can handle the area that takes up.
And also just the weight.
Yeah.
Those wigs get heavy real fast.
But you can alter, just like with altering the color of your wig to match your undertones, just like altering the fabric choices, just like altering the shape of garments to match your body better, you can alter the styling of a wig to match your style better. Like, I like a looser styled wig that looks a little more natural versus the very, very cartoony style.
Yeah.
I love the very, very cartoony style wigs. They're beautiful. They look dumb on me, in my personal opinion. And your personal comfort is paramount. That is the pinnacle. Your personal comfort. If you don't think you look good, it won't matter what fancy photographer you've got. It won't matter if 50,000 people on the internet say you look good. If you don't think you look good,
that doesn't matter.
You're not going to like the cosplay. You're not going to like the videos you take. You're not going to like the photos you take. You're not going to like looking in the mirror. Your comfort is important.
For me, I have a larger face and a rounder face and a big head. So characters that have a dinky little bob that cut off at about the chin, I always lengthen it a couple centimeters because it always makes my face look really round, and very chubby too because I have very full cheeks, and I don't like how that makes me look, so I always will lengthen the hair a little bit to kind of pull my face down a bit more.
Well, it's I have a tall forehead, and so characters with a center part and just hair that basically goes around their head and it's a little flat, I always cut face framing hairs, even if it's not canon to the character, because I think it looks better on me. A fully slicked back hair also doesn't look good on me, so I'm gonna give myself sideburns. I'm gonna give myself little things that make it look better on me while also fitting into the vibe of the character. So when I cosplayed Kenma, I would always give myself, I cut in little wispy pieces of hair that I would keep around my face because it just ended up looking so much better than his more canon design of it being flat and just kind of against his forehead, because again, a center part in a wig looks really bad on me.
Yeah, it's also just the center parts in wigs are also often thicker, so they have a more prominent part than they would on a human head.
Yeah, because I have a center part right now, but I also have bangs. And so if it's like a center part, no bangs, it looks so bad on me. Center part with bangs, just fine.
Yeah, because like for me, a center part in a wig, on a lot of wigs, because of how wigs are constructed, unless they're like a lace cap, there's a bit more of a ridge to them. So I'll look at my shadow and I'll be like, that looks like a penis, referring to my head in the shadow. And every time I look at that, I just feel like my wig looks shit. So I try to stay away from wigs with a very prominent middle part, if I can help it. Sometimes you can't, but a lot of characters with side parts, you can also get wigs that just don't really have a part to them.
Yeah.
And it still works totally fine. And it still looks cool, and it still looks like it could be that character's hair.
Yeah.
All that fun stuff. Like, Washong from Heaven Officials. My wig for that, it doesn't necessarily have a clear center part, but it still very much reads like his hair.
Yeah.
Even though he does kind of have a bit of center part going on.
He has like a center part leaning side part.
Yeah.
But
he's got a dorky fucking haircut.
He has a very dorky fucking haircut, but he's really pretty, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Something I like to do to keep my costumes practical, because I have a habit of not choosing costumes that have pockets or bags. At least easily accessible pockets or bags. Like Mock, he has little pouches on his belt because of the gloves that I have, the arm socks. It makes it hard to dig into those pockets a lot. So what I like to do, and the person running the food stand at SoccerCon, or Emerald City, one of the two, was like, this is the coolest thing ever. You thought ahead. I have those pull lanyards that you have like on a spool, and you can pull them in they'll retractable, and I'll put my badge on it. I will put one of the photo card tappable cases, and I'll put my ID in the front in the clear pocket, and I'll put a debit card or credit card behind it, so I have my ID, so I can show my age if I want to get into 18 plus panel and I need it. I have my badge so I can come and go out of the con, and I can easily pay for food for things and other stuff without having to like disassemble half of my costume to be able to do so. So I have free hands and also everything I need, and that's a really also good way of making sure I have everything with how bad theft can be in some of these really large cons, because I'm going to notice if someone tries to get something off of my belt or off of the lapel of my coat that's clipped on or whatever. If someone's digging into a pocket on this big great build that I am wearing, I don't necessarily feel someone ruffling through my bag.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But I can, if it's something I can actually look down and see, oh, I have this, oh, I have this, oh, I have this. Yeah. I'm more likely to make sure like I have everything with me. Especially because with them all together, I never forget my badge, and I never can forget my money. And oftentimes I'll also put my hotel key card in there as well, so I never get locked out of my room.
That's good.
Because the amount of times I've gotten locked outside of my hotel room on accident, insane.
For some reason, every time I stay at a hotel, I always get the dinky card that for some reason only works half of the time.
I give you a good card when we went to Emerald City.
This is true. But like, so many times I end up with the card that doesn't work, and I'm like, please let me into my room.
Yeah, well, since I became a Hyatt member, because we stay at Hyatts a lot of the time, I can actually turn my phone into a hotel key.
Oh, nice.
Into a room key, which has been so fucking handy.
Being a Hyatt member is so nice, and the Hyatt hotels are usually actually really nice.
They're so nice, and they're so kind to cosplayers, too.
Yeah.
It's worth
Best
it.
con experience.
Best con experience.
Yeah.
And they're often also a lot of con hotels. Like Komori Con, the Hyatt Regency is their con hotel. Yeah. So you often end up staying in the same hotel as a lot of the guests, and then you can get trapped in an elevator with Dante Basco.
Or you could also get you get trapped in a revolving door with Dante Basco, and then I also got trapped in an elevator with Griffin Burns. Yeah. So you know.
And going back a bit to like cumbersome builds and like your mech builds and your ball gown builds.
Can you walk in it?
Can you walk in it? And can you pee in it?
And can you sit in it?
Yes, that's a big one. There are ways to get around the sitting one, though, because there are products you can get, especially for ball gowns. Also with mech builds than there are for ball gowns. You can get away with a lot with a ball gown if you're smart about it. But you can actually get little stools you could put underneath your skirt.
And just sit down on it,
without having to, like, weirdly pull at any of the seams or anything like that. But my biggest way to determine if a costume is practical, if you need friends to pee, it's not practical.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have been at cons where I have to get completely naked to go pee, and sometimes that's just unavoidable, like with like bodysuit cosplays. Like in 2017, I was at Fan Expo. No, I was at AR. No, I think it was Fan Expo. Anyways,
it was a con.
It was a convention, and I was dressed as Black Widow, and I had to get completely naked to go pee, and the stall I was in, like, wouldn't close, so I had to have my friend out there, like, holding my stall closed, because I'm just... When you go pee in a bodysuit, you have to take the whole thing off.
Yeah, unless you have, like, a weird crotch closure.
Yeah, but then that, I wouldn't feel safe with that. I'd still think I'd pee on it.
Yeah, and only some bodysuits can have some sort of closure like that. Like, I'd only have a closure like that in, like, a bunny suit type bodysuit.
Yeah.
And even then, after my experience last time I wore one of those bodysuits, I don't think I'm ever going to be using one with clasps in the bottom like that ever again.
Yeah, so being able to comfortably pee in a costume is so important.
Yeah. And especially
you can make yourself sick with not peeing. Like, you have to do it.
It's serious. You can give yourself a UTI that way.
Yeah.
Which they're not fun.
Well, because the reason why you have, like, waste is because it's toxins. It's taken all of the nutrients, and it's what's left over is the toxin. So if you are holding on to that, you can make yourself sick with the toxins staying in your body. So don't be stupid and not pee because you want to look like you want to wear this particular costume to a convention.
Because you want to wear the entire Attack on Titan harness.
Oh, yeah. Getting out of the Attack on Titan harnesses to pee is an experience.
And being able to put them back together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's not to say that unpractical costumes don't have a place at con, because they're absolutely cool. You just have to be able to plan for it.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're going to a con on your own, maybe leave that giant Warhammer build at home.
Yeah. If you're gonna have a crazy huge build,
make sure you have a handler or
have a friend. Yeah, even if it's just a friend who's in a less complicated costume who can tell people who might walk straight into you to back the fuck off.
Yeah, we do that all the time for each other and for friends.
Well, because, like, I have a friend who cosplays the Pocky Box, like a giant big Pocky Box, and their sister always goes around with them as their official handler. And there are a lot of times where she'll also be in costume, and we'll have to tell people to back the fuck up. And, like, I have also been a Pocky Box handler. I have a t-shirt and everything. It's really fun.
I'd love to be a Pocky Box handler with a t-shirt.
But it's really, like, if you're gonna have these ginormous builds, you need somebody to, like, look out for you.
And on that note, check with your friends first.
Oh, yeah.
If they're willing to do that for you. Because that can take a lot of time out of their experience at a con, following you around and making sure you're okay.
Yeah.
Don't just assume your friends are going to do it for you just because they're your friend.
Yeah.
Because that's a really easy way to take advantage of your friends and have them not want to be friends with you anymore.
Oh, yeah, big time. Big time.
You know? And it doesn't even necessarily need to be, like, a whole thing, you know? I'm sure those who listened to our panel from AR would have heard the polearm story that Alycas has, where they had someone ditch their prop on them for multiple hours.
Yeah.
You know, it's any kind of help like that if you know you're going to need a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because, like, when we first started planning these Link and Zelda builds we're doing for SoccerCon, the first thing we did before we got any of the materials, we're like, okay, well, who's probably going to be going to con with us? And will they be okay with maybe being our handler for that day?
Yeah.
Or whatever, like that. And depending on their response is how we determined on how we were going to make these costumes.
Yeah.
Which we're still obviously planning on making them as self-sufficient as possible with like my removable train and various and sundry other things we're planning on putting into these costumes. So we aren't taking up all of their time, because even though they said it's totally okay, absolutely, I'll be your handler, no questions asked, I still feel bad having them be my handler, no questions asked. Yeah. And also, I love my friends, but I don't know if I want any of them to watch me pee.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's kind of a sacred time. I want to be alone in the stall.
Only me in the toilet need to know what happens there.
Yeah. I'll hand people pieces of my costume, like, out the door and be like, here, can you hold this? Like, one of my friends had a Yaimiko cosplay, and you have to basically get completely naked before you can go pee, just because it's basically a leotard with everything just kind of on top, wrapped around and clasped on. So they had to, before even getting into the stall, strip down into basically what was essentially a backless bunny suit, and then be able to go pee. So I would be standing outside of the bathroom door holding the entirety of this costume so my friend could piss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that also just kind of comes with hotel roommates. Yeah. Too, if you're getting a hotel with friends. Because a lot of the time in the hotels, 99% of the time, people have no problem helping you get into your costume. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean they're going to be around all day to help you get in and out of it, and in and out of it, and in and out of it.
Yep.
Right? A lot of people are like, we got you in the costume once, the rest is up to you, buddy.
Well, it was like me trying to help Emma put on her wings at AR, where I'm like up underneath of the wings right at her ass trying to tie this all together. Which, obviously, when you're friends, it's fine, but you have to, like, ask, you know? It's like, you don't want to just assume that your friends are going to do things, and that was obviously not what my friend assumed. It was a, hey, can you please do this? I love you, thank you.
Because they really need to pee.
Yeah.
And they couldn't go pee on their own.
Yeah, they can't, like, the wings, these were, like, huge wings that had probably, like, a, 7 to 10 wingspan fully stretched out.
Something like that, yeah.
And so, like, you can't take that into the stall. You have to take those off. And it's one of those, like, precarious little designs where it's, like, everything's kind of tied together in a specific way. You can't take it on and put it off, like, very easily by yourself. So, like, it was good that we were around.
And also, that same friend, because of the wingspan on that costume, didn't go into the vendor's hall.
They stayed
outside or in the lobby.
Yeah. And was, like, very aware of everyone around. And I think later on that day, they took the wings off and went into the vendor's hall, and then got back out of the vendor's hall and put the wings back on instead of going there with the wings on.
The same goes for panels and watching shows, too. So, like, when
I've seen a Hawk cosplayer one time go to a panel, like Hawks from BNHA with the ginormous wings, and then, like, it took up, 5 seats in this packed hall. It was bad.
Yeah, because, like, for me, I have some costumes where I'm already 6 foot, so I already block view of people who sit behind me a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. But a lot of my costumes have things like horns or big ears or something like that, and I always make them in a way that they're easy to come off, so I can take them off if I'm sitting in an audience, or I purposely sit in the back so I'm not obstructing people's view with the costume.
Yeah.
Because people have a lot of patience for people's heads blocking views. But if someone has, like, a big beehive wig that's blocking my view...
Yeah.
I'm a little bit less sympathetic of that.
Mm-hmm. I once had a Bakugo cosplayer in their, full, with the, explosion fan things on the hair, huge spiked wigs sit in front of me. This dude was tall. I saw nothing. I saw absolutely nothing. And I was like, bruh.
For reference, Alycas is 5'3".
I'm 5'4". But I also, 65% of my height comes from my legs, so when I sit down, I've got the height of somebody that's 4'11", so I'm not seeing much.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say on practicality, fit?
No, I think I've I've covered my bases. I could probably talk so long on texturing and like putting different like those details into costumes, so it's a good thing he stopped me at the 25-minute mark.
Maybe we'll have a whole episode just about textures.
Oh, yeah.
Later, because that could be fun. Let us know if you want an episode about textures or if you want an episode on something else by emailing us at dressupdisasters@gmail.com, or alternatively, you can send us a DM over on Circas Productions on Instagram. That is CIRCAS Productions.
We really want to hear from you, and we would love to do episodes on things that you guys want to hear, because yes, we have a lot of ideas,
but we're gonna run out eventually.
Yeah.
So please, if you want more episodes, please let us know what kind of things you want to hear, and also adjustments we can make to this podcast to make it a better listening experience for you. We also have merch available over on Teespring, which you can find the link for on our Instagram.
It's really cute.
It is very cute. We're hoping to get some more designs out soon-ish.
Yeah.
But we do have 3 up right now, 1 specifically for Dress Up Disasters and 2 just Circas Productions in general, because that's our team name for competing.
I love it. It's very cute.
Anyways, this has been Dress Up Disasters episode 6. And we will see y'all in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.